A Finnish theologian named Taito Kantonen told a story that fits well with today's theme of hope. Some years ago, a United States submarine sank off the coast of New England, and the rescue operation led to the discovery of the disabled vehicle in the bottom of the ocean. When the divers approached the submarine, they heard this tapping noise coming from inside. And when they stopped to listen, among several messages was this one tapped in Morse code. Is there hope? Is there hope? And it's a question, I think, that is still tapped from within the depths of the human heart. In this time of uncertainty, or even in an hour of tragedy and impending death, it is most poignant. But hope is never a luxury that we can get along without. It is an absolute necessity for living life. Hope is faith in the future, a faith that gives courage and strength to this particular present. And for many people, though, the present is unbearable because they believe there is no future, and such a state of mind is nothing less than hell. And hell, says A.J. Cronin, is the place where one has ceased to hope. And he's echoing the words which Dante saw inscribed over the portals of the Inferno: abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Hopelessness shortens life. A person without hope feels cornered and trapped and loses the will to live. I remember being, now many years ago, the chaplain of a retirement home where I saw people who found a way to make something good in everything, even when it was clearly not good. These were the people who were more likely to recover, to move on, to maintain a positive attitude, while others either cannot or will not. Science itself, according to Dr. Carl Menninger, is built on hope. People can't help hoping, he says. A scientist only hopes more accurately. Today, we're hoping for the cure for cancer. And that is why our geniuses of science and of medicine are working so hard to make this hope come true. And it's also why it's so important to really understand the hope that lies behind stem cell research, for example, to be able to separate the good that can come from cells that can never achieve life and from the real moral concerns over human life. In the meantime, cancer patients ask, is there hope? And even if a way is found to lengthen or improve the span of life, we all know that there is still a boundary that no human hope can cross. And that boundary is the inevitable one, the death that waits us all. But if one is hopeless in facing death, then one is also hopeless in facing life. And so the good news of Advent gives the answer to that question. Yes, there is hope. The men in the sunken submarine tapped out messages about hope against the dark walls in the cold deep, and the news of Advent is pretty much the same. It might feel as if we're all trapped at one point or another in such negative powers at home and in the world over that we are helpless or that we're doomed. It feels impossible that we might not find hope or hope from within, and we need to hear the message. We need to hear the message of hope when we ourselves may not even find it possible to believe. This is Advent. It's the season of watching and of waiting. It's the season of hope and peace and joy and love. And it's the time when we're told to keep our watch. And first, of course, the prophet Isaiah brings an important reminder of who we are and what we hope to believe is true on this particular Sunday. He shall judge between the nations and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And today's the day that the Christian calendar flips all of the pages over and we start again at the very beginning. Luke has now had his year. He packs his bags and leaves us after eating the last piece of pumpkin pie at the Thanksgiving table. And Matthew enters in loudly, sometimes a little boorishly, I think, throwing his baggage into the corner. And the church bathes itself in purple, in watching and waiting in the sign for Jesus' birth. And in all of this, we are given the first word. The first word every year is always hope, and how we need hope. Maya Angelou says, love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, it leaps fences, it penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope, the hope that we need. And the story is that the great church reformer Martin Luther was once asked what he would do if he knew for certain that the world was going to end tomorrow. And without hesitation, he replied, I would plant an apple tree this afternoon. And Luther was not given to speculation about the ending of the world. He focused rather on the purpose of the world and the purpose of him acting in that world. In Micah we sing, God has told you, O people, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Luther would plant an apple tree tomorrow because he believed that what may happen in the future does not excuse us from what God requires of us in the here and the now. And this is that time when Jesus tells his followers to keep awake and be ready, because the empire has placed them and the empire itself on the verge of destruction by overreaching wars, by economic overextension and greed. Jerusalem will fall, and so too one day will the empire. And the message of the prophet Isaiah is not about practicing for end times, but for being people who understand the importance of turning nations toward the practice of peace. What is the purpose for which we were intended at this time and in this place? Today's theme is hope. Hope in the depths of the human heart, hope for a peaceful world, hope for the end of wars and the development of cooperation between nations. Woodrow Wilson once said, "You are not here merely to make a living. You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world, and you impoverish yourself if you forget the errand." So today we're encouraged to be the people who help turn the swords into plowshares for the sake of the generations to come. Be the faithful who beat the spears, real or metaphorical, into pruning hooks in order to care for this earth. Be ambassadors to each other and to the world of what our principles really can look like. And work to turn our nation, and indeed all nations, not to learn war anymore. And the prophet Isaiah stands once again this year, shaking his staff at the wind, and tells this to the world and to us. He stands today in thousands of pulpits and lecterns all across the world, thundering these words, and we have only to wonder how his voice will be heard. But as Anne Lamott writes, hope begins in the dark, the stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait, you watch, you work. You don't give up. And so as Advent people, we are the ones now to walk through these doors and walk in the light, as the prophet says. Let us walk in the light for God's sake and for our own sakes. Let us walk the way of the light and help bring something new, something full of hope into this world this Advent season. Amen. Let's rise and sing our closing.